Looks like I have full permission to sell to you now. Well, look who it is. Dazra's very own guest of honor. You must have friends in high places, as I have been authorized to trade with you. I have some impressive firepower on offer. My darling, do you really have to ask? Until now, these weapons have only been authorized for use by military personnel. You have the honor of breaking that convention. Of course I do. Now, what are you buying? No, and thank the Great Serpent for that. Unlike them, I actually have chances to shoot my guns. What kind of supplier would I be if I do not test the merchandise? I have some serious firepower here.
Victor. The High Council needs access to the power grid if we
Great
hope to
Serpent
restore
be
the
at your
city.
side.
Your inability to provide a legitimate excuse for denying them will only last so long.
Victoria is right. I know you're angry, but you can't let personal matters interfere with what may be best for everyone.
Personal matters? This is a Ministry of State matter, and I will handle it as I see fit. He is a traitor. He turned his back not only on his family, but on our people's entire belief system. The fact that he still breathes is a stain upon the House Veth'aal name.
You would doom us all with your pride.
I will do as I please as head of this house. If you are not a member of House Veth'aal, you do not belong here. Another High Council lackey come begging? I told Lovick no more!
Forgive my brother. He has been forgetting his manners of late. Victor, this is Anaskel's chosen. You recall Lovick sent word.
I recall he spoke of a newly anointed promised. And we do not need help, especially from an outsider.
You can't continue to refuse the council. You must act. Your inaction is killing you.
Precisely, which is why he leaves me no choice but to say this. My nephew Varric has left, and until he returns, Victor refuses to assist the council.
These are hardly matters for the ears of an outsider. And who are you to tell me what is vital and what is not? You are an outsider. You have no understanding of our house. What would my son, my successor, the heir to House Veth'aal have to do with house politics? Even someone with basic political knowledge should realize his importance.
Is this not the opportunity you've been looking for, brother? A third party capable of finding Varric?
Yes, you said so yourself. Someone with no loyalties to speak of. And if he's become promised, truly his arrival is more than coincidence.
Serpent, give me strength. You both speak true. Perhaps I have reacted in haste. Tell me, Vindicator, are you well practiced in discretion? I have heard reports on Ryujin from the Ministry of Conjunction. This news gives me hope, As Victoria mentioned, my son, Varric, has left. Essentially, he has abandoned his post. And not only did he turn his back on his house, but the Great Serpent as well. He is a traitor and must be dealt with as such.
Victor, surely you don't mean it.
He does, Luther. He is allowing his fervent pride and anger to cloud his judgment. What my brother is trying to say is that he wishes his own son dead. First, we lose Vashti to that malignance tearing through Dazra. And now you so willingly offer up Varric. As if our house has not suffered enough loss already.
I will not speak of her with an outsider, promised or not. Your focus is solely on Varric. My son denounced the very faith that defines Va'ruun's society. He dared to blame Anasco for the state of Dazra. Dared to call our faith in the Great Serpent blind. It is heresy and punishable by death. Because he let his weakness get the better of him. He sees himself as a prisoner in this life. He runs from a duty that others would spend their lives coveting. He is my son. He does not get to choose. He was born to inherit my title, and he knows the punishment for refusing to honor it. Of course it would. As someone from the settled systems, you have no concept of what the Great Serpent demands of us. I do not wish Varric dead, but as head of the Ministry of State, he left me no choice. All must serve. Those who refuse will be met with death. Our duty as wardens is to keep the populace tasked and loyal. All must serve, both the Great Serpent and House Va'ruun. No exceptions. Those who refuse must be cleansed to stop the spread of corruption. I will not have it known that I declared my own son a heretic and allowed him to escape our grasp. This knowledge weakens the Ministry of State's authority, something we cannot risk at this time. This is why my interest turned to a third party, someone outside of the noble houses, but we have yet to determine someone trustworthy enough. Until now. The shame Varric brought upon this house is immeasurable. It stains the very foundation. I will not act until this house is in order and its members are properly aligned with the Great Serpent. And showing leniency for a house member at a time like this when order is needed most would be unwise.
The law. Our work is not so simple, and you know it. You act as if death is the only answer. What about forgiveness?
I will not risk the ministry's authority on the actions of my own son, even if he is my chosen heir. If the High Council wants my cooperation, I need you to find Varric and carry out his sentence.
And I would ask you to spare him. My brother is acting under impulse, not reason.
I have never been more clear. Speak against me one more time, and you will regret it. Varric has a signet ring with House Veth'aal's family crest. Bring it to me as proof of death. Only then will I grant you access to the power grid. There is no other way. The Ministry of State must uphold order, and you will be expected to serve as we all do. I recommend you start by speaking to patrons of the Herald's Rest. Some of Varric's associates there may know where he went, but keep in mind, anyone who has directly aided him in hiding is an accomplice and shares his fate. The Herald's Rest is our local bar, and unfortunately, my son's favorite establishment to frequent. And while I know a bar isn't the ideal place for discretion, I still expect you to keep these matters private. All anyone needs to know is that you are looking for Veth'aal. See to it you do. All anyone needs to know is that you are looking for Veth'aal for personal reasons. I will not risk word of his disappearance getting out before I can say the situation has been handled.
I have things I wish to discuss with you. When you have time.
I, too, would ask you spare Varric. Victor is in no condition to be
You have a
making
job to
such
do,
decisions.
Indicator. Get it done. See to your duty. If you feel it will help. Veth'aal was devout, although he lacked in enthusiasm. There is only one fate for those who would denounce the Great Serpent. When a promise is lost, they must be made penitent, and it is the Ministry of State's duty to see their sentence through. Veth'aal would believe he is above his duties as House Veth'aal's heir. He speaks of his own freedom when he was born to guide the people of Dazra. He runs from his duty, which means he runs from the Great Serpent himself. Veth'aal has nothing to do with the power grid, but everything to do with the integrity of House Veth'aal. I will not act until I have purged my house of this stain. Good. You have work to do. The Ministry of State maintains the very society of Dazra. We enforce the common goals, that our lives are dedicated to House Va'ruun and the Great Serpent. In order for everyone to contribute, we do not allow for the distractions of disillusion and heresy. Are you here to help or question my every decision? You think I would prefer to see my own son's severed head? The ring is unique, a gift from his sister, and all he has left of her. It will be enough. Until
If the
Remember,
Great Serpent
Vindicator,
truly watches over
that
us,
I would ask you to spare
we'll
my
bring
nephew.
Varric home.
Should any harm come to Varric, it would only further devastate this family. As a high-ranking member of the Ministry of State, I fully support the policies. But I also recognize these circumstances are not normal. Exceptions must be made in trying times. Varric was an obedient child, quiet, always absorbed in his studies to please his father. But the two have clashed ever since Varric sacrificed his growth. He found his voice that day, and to Victor's dismay, he wanted no part of being elder. All Va'ruun children raise a growth, and when they come of age, they sacrifice it. It is our way of solidifying our connection with the Great Serpent. All must serve, and our dedication to him comes above all else. Victor was too lenient with him when it came to Varric's free time. As strict as he was, he allowed him the freedom to associate with whomever he wanted. I think too much time at the Herald's Rest showed Varric a different life is possible, when it's not. Not for him. Victor's pride and belief in tradition will not allow it. He sees Varric's refusal to inherit the role of Elder as an insult, and many would share that view. Varric is conflict-averse. Pressure, responsibility, stress, he avoids them like the plague. He wants everyone's approval, and as Elder, that is an impossible task. I believe it is why he has fled. He made his final stand against his father, and rather than face the disapproval, he disappears. What would you like to know? Victor is letting his emotions get the better of him. He was barely processing the shock and grief from losing Vashti. Then came the anger and betrayal from Varric. My brother is a man of pride and great faith. For the first time, I think he does not know what to do. But I am certain Victor does not wish Varric dead. Is it not obvious? He has given you the perfect out, the ring. Yes, Varric would be loath to part with it. It belonged to his sister and is all he has left. But to save his life, to save her brother, Vashti would give him her blessing to hand it over if you asked. This is why I ask you to spare him. As head of the Ministry of State, Victor feels he has no choice. He believes he is trapped by his own faith and duty. If he makes an exception for his son, and the truth comes out, people will see it as weakness. They will question the Ministry of State's authority, which means they are questioning him. Something his pride would never risk. On the other hand, going through with it, announcing it to the public, that solidifies the Ministry of State as a force to be both feared and revered. And I pray I have answers for you. Vashti was my niece. Victor's daughter. Varric's sister. We lost her to the devastation that took half of our great city. Victor will barely speak of her. I think he cannot reconcile the loss with his faith. Vindicator?
Remember,
So many lives lost.
suffer not a
This
traitor
family can't
to
afford
live.
another. So many lives lost. This family can't afford another. Whatever happened to Dazra, our home was taken along with it. Victor felt the keep was the most logical place to stay until more long-term plans were able to be made. The Ministry of State oversees military and security, so we already have established offices here. Vashti was Victor's daughter. We lost her in the accident. She and Varric were very close. She was his anchor and voice of reason. I truly believe if she was still with us, Varric would be too. Varric is a dreamer who let his fascination with the settled systems get the best of him. You could always tell his heart wasn't into learning about Va'ruun society, noble houses, ministries, Dazra. He was a devout student, but none of it interested him. The only lessons that truly fascinated him were about space and exploration. Our house was taken during the incident. Our losses are great. Vashti being foremost in our minds. Excuse me. I'd rather not speak about it. You don't know Victor Veth'aal. He may be the most stubborn man in Dazra next to Anesko Va'ruun himself, but that doesn't mean we won't try. He adores Varric, and if he died without reconciling their differences, I think it would break him. He never got to say goodbye to Vashti, and he hasn't taken it well. Great Serpent keep you.
Remember, I ask you to reconsider. Victor is not in his right mind.
Can I get you anything? Some koza to lift your spirits? Varric? Depends on who's looking for him. And 5, of course. Sounds like you're here on official business, then. Truth is, I haven't seen him for a few days myself. But if you find him, tell him he better come check on his tab. I know he's good for it, but since he gave Eggy permission to use it, it's sky high. Eggy or B are the ones you want to question, but I doubt they know any more than I do. So that's the truth of it. All right, all right. I'll give you something. I don't know where he is, but there's a man, Dane Salavea. He might know. That one's easy. Dane's a bit of a regular ever since Dasra went to hell. Just wait around a bit, and he's bound to wander in.
Are you doing all right?
Hope things start looking up soon around here. Hey, aren't you that outsider-made promise that showed up here recently?
Seems it has been one hard day after another for most.
True enough. And no
Impressive.
relief on the horizon.
Since these people really aren't into strangers, especially in times like these. I'm an outsider myself. It's hard to get into the whole giant snake thing. I guess when you're part of the supply chain, they make a few exceptions. There's not a lot of people in the import-export business when it comes to Dazra, and they aim to keep it that way. But believe me, it wasn't any short amount of time before they let me roam these streets. You could say I'm like a specialized delivery service, moving stuff back and forth between Dazra and the settled systems. Just so happens I got a lot of time on my hands since Dazra went to hell and I lost my ship. And let me tell you, I thought things were grim before. Whatever that incident was, this whole planet's gonna need therapy. Yeah, it's something, isn't it? I've been toting stuff back and forth for these people for years and still get the cold shoulder most places I go. But then these people lose half their city and you show up, and suddenly it's divine intervention. It sure has, to say the least. Anyway, enough about that. What can I do you for? I know the name, sure, everybody here does. But the man? Not much. Someone like me doesn't exactly hang out with house bigwigs. That so? Well, I guess that depends, Vindicator. Who wants to know? I consider Varric a bit of a friendly acquaintance. I know enough about the guy to care about his physical well-being, if you know what I mean. Sounds more like an ominous third party if you ask me. Although, let's just say after what went down here, my retirement's looking imminent, and I haven't exactly been saving up for a rainy day. So if you're feeling generous, maybe we can help each other out. Nice to see we operate on the same wavelength. I'm pretty sure he's heading into the Highlands. Just not sure where. But I do have the means to track him. So you just say the word and we're off to the races. Highlands region is the northwest side of Dazra. Pretty good area if you don't want to be easily found. Yep, when it comes to my stuff, it's like a package deal. I'm not just gonna hand off valuable tech to some stranger. You make it sound creepy. But yeah, for emergencies. After you. Once we're outside of Dazra, I'll fire up my tracker, and fingers crossed, it'll lead us right to him. Just head out the west gate, should be the fastest route. Keep your eye out for anything that might point us in the right direction. Friend's a strong word. More like friendly acquaintances. Guess we both felt the Herald's Rest was one of the few places that made us feel like real people. Couple of drinks and everyone's your friend in that moment. I've only had a few run-ins with Victor for security purposes, and he's all in. The man embodies House Veth'aal. He could probably recite Janan's teachings word for word, and he runs the Ministry of State without missing a beat. Strict, demanding, and always watching. The guy's good at his job, but when it comes to personality, I couldn't tell you. Whoever he is, he keeps it close to the chest. Not from the man himself. The only time I get glimpses of who Victor might be is through Varric. It's clear he cares about his son, putting in all that work to prepare Varric for the vultures and wolves when he becomes elder. And get this, he even tells Varric he's proud of him. When you're in the kind of position that he is, I think you have to be. You can't be in charge of security and purging heretics and then turn around and cry over spilled milk. This is Dazra, where noble houses like to duke it out for bragging rights. If they see weakness, they take advantage. Ugh, the state's my least favorite of the three. Commerce and conjunction keep to themselves, but state reaches everywhere. Their security, but more importantly, their loyalty. So they'll get deep in your business. They want your motives, your next of kin, your firstborn. I joke. But the moment they get a whiff of something anti-snake, that's heresy. And heresy is a one-way ticket to meet the Great Serpent himself. House Veth'aal? Yeah, when it comes to House Va'ruun and the Great Serpent, you won't find a more dedicated house. Some are borderline fanatics, if you ask me. One step away from zealots. Victor isn't even the worst of them. Sure thing. He's a good enough guy, I suppose. A little self-absorbed, spoiled. Growing up in a noble house probably does that to you. A little naive, too. He's got this friend, Bianca. She's crazy about him. But the guy's oblivious. And his friend Eggy? Guy needs to lay off the Koza. But I heard Varric let him in on his tab. That's gonna work out well. Blames his dad for everything, though, and I get it. Victor Veth'aal is not an easy man. Well, it's Victor we're talking about, so it wouldn't surprise me. But Varric can't see how much effort Victor puts into making sure his son has all the tools he needs to take over. He'll go on these rants of Victor drilling him on scenarios. Stuff makes my brain hurt. But Varric talks about it like child's play. He's just used to getting his way and the world revolving around him. When you're raised to be elder, that's bound to bring you all sorts of extra attention. So sometimes when hanging around with us peons, he forgets we have our own thoughts and opinions. Hey, whatever you want. Always up for a chat.
Profit is never necessarily the aim.
I could have done without that. All my years and all the planets I've been on. Never gonna get used to those things. Sure looks like it. Damn House Veth'aal. Wiping out half their city and bringing in whores like these. At least I don't see a body around here, so I hope that means Varric's alive. You find anything? Yeah, I figured as much. At least his body wasn't attached to it. So what next? You got it. If he's bleeding, there's bound to be something. Let's head back down and see what we can find. And by we, I mean you. There's a farm up ahead. We should see what they know.
That's far enough, strangers. You want to tell me what you're doing on my property uninvited? Well, you won't find him here. This isn't exactly the type of place where house members frequent. I hate to inform you, but you're wasting your time. The only people here are my partner Zen and our daughter Mila. No one comes around here. We're isolated, and that's the way we like it. All right, fine.
Eden, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Zen, yes, I know quite well. Never mind my partner, they're just overly cautious. As I said before, I've never seen Veth'aal. We keep to ourselves. There's no reason for a path to cross. But we did aid an injured young man a few days ago.
That's gotta be Varric.
It's too coincidental. It must have been him. We didn't know and didn't ask. We introduced ourselves, and he quickly changed the subject. But he was polite, and something about him reminded me of our own son, so I didn't feel the need to push him. Casimir Mazur. He left a while back to find work in Dazra. He didn't want the life of a farmer. We haven't heard from him since the incident. We sent him north. There's a long-abandoned growth farm we felt he could make use of. He claimed he lost everything in the incident that swallowed half of Dazra. He wanted to start a new life. We even gave him 2 of our own growths to get started. Great Serpent, forgive my foolishness, but I trusted him instantly. I saw so much of our own son, Gas, in him, that I didn't doubt nor question. I allowed him his privacy in what I thought was a time of great need and grief. It's only now that you've come looking for him that I've made the connection.
Thanks for the help.
All must serve.
Fair journey, outsiders.
Because I do not experience boredom. I excel in the performance of menial tasks. I am currently engaged in the completion of my assigned task. Today's
Your skill with logs is admirable.
Nothing going on out here. How about you? Find anything? Sounds like it's a waiting game then.
It seems I have uninvited guests. You want to explain yourselves?
Whoa, hey, it's me. Dang. Put the gun down already.
It's not you I'm concerned about. It's your friends.
Rightfully so.
I wish I could say I was pleased to meet you, but something tells me this isn't a social call. Please, if you're here on my father's orders, allow me to plead my case. I'm glad someone does for once. I am not sure how familiar you are with our culture, but all I've ever wanted was the right to choose. I was born House Veth'aal. I was raised to inherit the role of Elder, to run the Ministry of State, to worship the Great Serpent. But I want none of it.
With House Veth'aal? Easier said than done.
This is true. House Veth'aal and the Ministry of State are known to be the most devout and punitive of the houses. It would not be easy to leave without extreme consequences, as you now know.
It's never mattered how much I tried to reason with him. My father simply would not let me go. His pride and the fear of what it would mean for House Veth'aal is all he cares about. Shame, embarrassment, fuel for the other houses to ridicule my father. I don't want any of that for him, but he left me no choice. If he would have listened just once, maybe I could have left on good terms with my father's blessing. Control the narrative, as they like to say. Only because of our antiquated ways. Our society is stuck in the past. Our culture isolates and suffocates. All I want is to make my own life. Something Tane understood and was willing to help me with.
The credits help too. But yeah, guess you got the whole scoop now. I realized I was going to help a friend. And yeah, I knew the risks. That's why we had the tracker. I needed Barrick to get far enough away from Dazra so I could safely pick him up and get him out of here. I was hoping you'd see it that way. I lost my ship to the incident, so I didn't want Barrick running off thinking I could just grab him and go. I was also out all the credits he was gonna pay me. That's where you came in. I figured, why not two for the price of one? I didn't realize it was gonna turn into a whole thing.
So, now you know my true intentions for leaving, and given the circumstances, I may be here for some time. My hope now is to make the best of it here. I suppose I owe you that much. The truth is, the Scaled Citadel was the last straw. My people are so blinded by faith and politics, they don't see how it's destroying us. Anasko Varun eliminated half our population in the blink of an eye. My sister Vashti among them. I could no longer live in a society that won't put its people first. That would destroy itself in the name of a god that has done nothing for us. Perhaps you are lucky then. It's not easy to watch people you love blindly follow a path that leads to their destruction. I hope you can see why I want to walk away from all this. To start my own life. I ask that you give me that chance. Anything. Name it. My ring. Vashti gave it to me. It's all I have left of her since the cataclysm. The disaster took every physical reminder of her except for this ring. Just wiped her from existence. True. It's as if she's looking out for me. One last time. Take it. I'll find solace in the fact that the ring will remain with my family. And now I hope we are done here. Thank you for seeing reason. I owe you both my life and freedom.
Now that's over with. I'm gonna hang back here, talk to Varric a bit. Besides, I don't want to be around when you break the news to Victor. Do me a favor and find me at the Herald's Rest when you're done. Remember to find me at the Herald's Rest once you finish your business.
Thank you for honoring my freedom. Vashti knew my heart and mind well. She would understand. I have no doubt. Our father is what would bother her the most. She would have made a far better elder than I. If only he would have listened. But the man refuses to see anyone's truth but his own. I was on my way to see my father at the Halls of Obedience when it happened. I had just crossed Jinan Plaza when I saw the light pulse from the Citadel. And the sound felt like it went right through me. I couldn't help but fixate on the Citadel itself, surrounded by that strange energy. It didn't even dawn on me until later, just how heavy the losses would be. For now. My father won't risk additional resources to confirm my death. That would only reflect poorly on him. Besides, this is just a stepping stone. My ultimate goal is to leave Va'ruunkai behind. This farm will allow me to prove to myself that I can make it out there.
Is it done? You're back. What news do you bring?
What have you done? Varric.
This blood is on your hands, Victor. I hope you remember this. And I clearly said exceptions should be made.
No, it was Verric's choice. He knew the consequences.
You were his father. You were supposed to protect him. You think you are doing what is right out of some blind dedication, but you are destroying this house. You already lost one child. You had to murder the other.
Victoria!
I will not hear any more of this. It is done. Leave us.
Oh, I am leaving to mourn my nephew whose memory you disgrace with your very presence.
Victoria!
Leave her be, Luther. The Great Serpent will guide her. She will understand in time and emerge stronger for it. Indeed it does. Now, only one matter remains to discuss. Did you find anyone who aided my son in his treachery? Good. Unfortunately, I have heard ramblings among the people of Veth'aal's disappearance. Wardens are dealing with the matter as we speak. But you restored order to this house and have my gratitude. Here, the access code that Ekris needs to connect to the power grid. Now go. I have much to arrange.
First Vashti, now Varric. I can't imagine this is what Victor truly wanted. If only you had allowed Varric to live. I mostly looked after the House members, trying to take a more active role in the lives of our people. Victor's attention is more administrative-focused, so he has little time to deal with personal grievances or requests. Since the destruction, I did all I could to help ease our family's grief. But once Varric left, I turned my focus completely to Victor. I remember the light and a horrible sound. But most of all, I remember Victor's face when he rushed outside to find us. He kept saying it was gone, disappeared. I'll never forget the moment he took us into the halls of obedience to see the devastation that surrounded the scaled citadel. The heartbreak and horror we felt knowing whatever took Dazra took our house and family with it. Great Serpent keep you.
You have the codes. See to their delivery. House Veth'aal will thrive for centuries to come. I will see to it. There are many of noble blood far more worthy than my own son who would gladly take on the mantle. I was at the Hall of Obedience, discussing matters that do not concern you when I first saw it. A strange light emanating from the scaled citadel. It was but a moment later, and light filled the entire room, followed by an indescribable sound, and then silence. Vindicator?
Progress on the device is welcome. It is good the device looks ready. Let us hope it has not been built too hastily. We need this to work.
If this doesn't work, Serpent save us. Did Victor finally relinquish the access code? We're almost there, so I'm hoping you have the final key to unlocking the morning device's true potential. The power grid access is the last thing we need. Excellent. We'll finally have the resources to fully charge the morning device. Now, give me a moment to set up the grid. Inputting the access code.